Guys, Coach Theo here on Common Sense. Okay guys, time to talk about my first bodybuilding show. 7 out of 8, really? What the fuck? Yeah, that sure did sting initially, placing 7 out of 8 in that lineup. And I find it unfortunate that this has to take as much space as it does, because this is not something that I took on initially for any sort of outcome, any sort of result in the contest, right? I completely spontaneously, on a whim, take on preparing for a bodybuilding show in a week, just seeing like, what's the best I can do in a week? And I actually feel really happy and proud about my accomplishment. Something that's really difficult for me to feel, by the way. I'm not someone that feels proud easily, but I can see that being the kind of person that I am, overachiever, really yearning for perfection and doing my absolute best, it's almost impossible for me initially, that at least my initial reaction upon seeing 7 out of 8 is like, this is no good, like I fucked up, I failed, right? And also just the part that people, even, a lot of you guys, I realize you know me, you know how I might feel about a thing like that, you want to make me feel better, but it's still pointing, when you say like, you deserve to win or something, it's like, well, it's not the point, all these external things, that was never the point, right? So it is what it is, because if I didn't have a following, right, I could just shake it off. I don't have because of course you guys are going to want to know what happened. When you see the lineup, like how could you lose to those guys? What happened? So just expressing that. But so I want this video to be, I'm going to tell you about my experience like from the start and why it went the way it went. But then I want to at the same time, because it's really, like for me it takes a lot of I need to be really introspective and mature to be able to feel happy about this and not get all caught up in like, oh, the replacement and stuff like that, right? So I want to talk about how easy it is to forget why you started doing something, what it was truly about, and get caught up in the noise, right? And also the difference between having an external focus and an internal focus. Okay, so it was this weekend the competition was, right? And so the weekend before, on the Friday, I have zero thoughts about competing in bodybuilding. Like right now, my plan has been now, because for many years, I've been thinking I'm going to compete at some point, I'm going to try it. Now I don't know exactly what's going to happen, if I'm going to be living in Stockholm, but I have decided that if I, by the end of the summer, know I'll be around in Stockholm, I'm going to do a show that's in December. Then I'll have 3 months-ish to prepare, learn the poses and cut down and everything, right? But then I get thrown this. My friend invites me, like our other friend, I'm gonna compete, you're in really good shape, do you wanna just do it on a whim like that? And now the thing is, like, this is the day before the last day to sign up. So just from a logistics point, it was quite stressful. I have to get a club to even respond to me and tell me that I get to represent them in the contest, right? So, I don't have time to look into, like, things like different categories, are there different rules, I just have to try to solve everything as fast as possible. I just knew, like when it comes to competitive bodybuilding, the only thing I know is that there are different classes, men's physique, classic physique, and so on. And obviously I happen to know the bodybuilding process of building muscle and cutting down. I happen to be quite an expert of the prep part, just the getting in shape part. I'm good at building muscle and cutting fat and manipulating. I've done it a lot, drying out, and depleting and filling up on glycogen and that. But when it comes to how the sport is judged, I really know very little, right? But so when I get the response and like last minute, last day, I just I just know that men's physique is kind of gay. They get to have the swimming shorts. It's like the easy option. And what I know, I'm like classic physique, that's more my physique. I get to show off the thighs too. I just pick classic physique, right? And then Henrik, my friend, who did compete in men's physique, he like calls me and asks me about everything. And he's like, so you pick classic physique? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, well, I didn't think I had the stress tolerance to learn 7 mandatory poses, so I picked men's physique. And already there, I'm like, oh, okay. So it's not only a different physique ideal, it's actually more to do in a competition. I didn't know that, right? And so I have to start looking into the rules for the competition. I see the mandatory poses. One of them happens to be the vacuum pose. And already here, it's like, okay, that's not good, because the other poses, even though if you don't have time to learn to do it like in the most flattering way, put yourself in the best position with it. Let's say a double biceps. Let's say I have very poor external rotation or something, so I can show my biceps well. This still is a double biceps, right? But the vacuum is really like, it's more of a skill. And I find that pose really ugly, you know. That's why since I've never competed, I've never tried to learn to do proper vacuum. Like, I can do it a little bit like sitting down, lying down. I can do it to some degree if I stand up and I'm completely relaxed before. But you see that this is more than a position. It's like you actually have to train those diaphragm muscles to be able to pull your stomach in like that. And so when I'm practicing, I just realize that I'm not going to have the time to learn to do a proper vacuum. And I don't really know what this means. You know, I'm guessing like I won't do well on that pose, but I don't know what more, you know, what can I do? I picked this, I'm signed up, I have to learn the pose as the best I can, right? And so, you know, we arrive, do the show, and what happens, because I know I'm going to be rolling footage from the show here, maybe I can't sync it up completely, but you're going to see, if you see at one point when we're doing the vacuum, I and a few other guys had to do it again, and the judge even like really walked up to me and asked me, like, you can't pull your stomach in more, and I had to shake my head and be like, no, you know. And so, of course, that doesn't feel great, but yeah, you know, we go on with it. I do my solo thing. And so my initial reaction when they call out like me on number 7, it's like I'm not expecting to win or anything. Like I know I picked this up late. I don't quite know the way the judging works. But as I hear 7th, that's quite shocking because I've seen some of the guys. And even when I walk over and see the guys, you know, in the corner of my eye, I'm like, what the fuck? These guys are placed better than me, you know? And so in this moment, even though it was easier for me to go into this with lower, like feeling less pressure that I need a certain placement or something, when it's literally weak and it's like, you know, it's easy to not expect myself that I need to win or something. But honestly, if this exact lineup was the case and I had been preparing for months and months ahead, I would have felt like I should win this, right? But so I think if they had called me out like 3rd or 4th, like in the upper half, I think I wouldn't, even if I feel like I like have a better physique than some, that would have felt like, you know, that makes sense. Like, I don't really know the rule, I can't do the poses properly. It makes sense that a few guys could out-angle me with the posing. But 7th, that just felt like, so it did not feel good at the start, and it's interesting to see with a person like myself that, you know, why I talk about why I'm good at coaching and teaching people. I feel like one of the things I have to teach people the most is to not be black and white, not have a perfectionist mindset. You know, allow yourself to not be perfect at this thing. Why I'm good at this and why I figure these things out is, of course, that I have an extreme perfectionism, an extreme want to perform and accomplish, achieve. So even if I, in this setting, probably could have felt good about like not winning, it's almost impossible for me to not initially, when the shock, not understanding that this is really how the competitions work, you know. It's hard for me to not feel like I fucked up, I'm bad somehow, right? But then, as I'm talking to people, you know, and it sinks in, and I just realized that, hey, okay, well, if that's how the sport works, I'm surprised. I would have thought, for instance, if we compare me, let's pretend I can do perfect posing, and I go up against peak Arnold, but that doesn't know how to pose. In my mind, Arnold would still win because he's like so obviously more developed in his physique than me. Apparently, that's not how it works. And so when I just got some time to accept this, it was easier to separate like the judging decision and my own effort, my own accomplishment, right? Because like really, if that's the case, like, okay, you have to be able to do a vacuum, and if you can't do the vacuum, you get a massive penalty, then it's like, well, then it makes sense with the judges placing. I didn't know that, and now I can feel good about my accomplishment. So the thing is, because this, already before the competition, it actually, I had a moment when it felt huge to me that I was there, and I almost started crying in the hotel room because in my backstory, you know, panic attack things, I went through that thing with the panic attacks, and before then, my greatest pain in life and greatest fear was like stage fright. The fear of being seen, putting myself out there, exposing myself, being judged and potentially abandoned, right? Like these are things I figured out now, but back then I just knew that I struggled something extreme with stage fright. And I had many areas in my life where, you know, I have a musical background, I've been in a choir, and I started having stage fright even when I wasn't the only person, like when I'm in a choir, right? But also, you know, maybe I want to take a solo at some point, even though it wasn't a big thing for me to want, but maybe I want to take a speaker role at some point, you know. But I was terrified. I got absolutely terrified. And a lot in my life, I felt like my gift, what I'm meant to do, whatever it is, something in front of people. I'm supposed to be in front of people and deliver something. I know I'm meant for that. I felt so blocked by my extreme fear, right? And so I had this moment when I realized that, hey, like I'm about to go up with like super underprepared for something in fucking Speedos, basically, showing off my body, not knowing how to pose whatsoever, with very little, like as much practice as I could get in a week, and just own it as if I know exactly what I'm doing. And I don't even, I felt some butterflies, but I'm not even all that nervous. And that just felt huge to me in the moment, right? Realizing that my old self would have meant so much to him to just be able to do 10% of what I now do. And it was such a confirmation of how far I've come that I'm fucking here. I'm just gonna do it. You see what I'm saying, right? And this is what I mean, that both first my own initial thing, I really felt that before stepping up. I feel like I've won before stepping up on stage because I know I'm going to, and I know how difficult it would have been in the past and how much I would have wanted to run away. So it's like, but being shocked at the position, suddenly I'm thinking about my placement in the contest, which wasn't really the point. And also what I want to say is that, you know, it felt good when people like backstage and gave me a lot of credit, like, that's unfortunate that it matters so much with one pose, and like, oh, you had the best energy by far, you had the best physique also. You know, I get all this external validation. And I realized it felt good to hear, but then it's like, well, wait a second. It's not supposed to be external as in the placement or what people tell me. It should be internally, me doing the challenge, because, you know, that's what I set out to do, and getting to feel proud that I've come so far, that I just could do something like that. No one does that. No one just on a whim takes on a bodybuilding show in a week and shows up in a great shape and just can do it, like ballsy like that. Kind of the same thing when I get back. It's like, you know, all you guys, it's like, you know, I appreciate it. I'm not the easiest person to like care for when I like, you know, in a position like this. It's not easy to know what you should say or do to make me feel better. But that's what I end up feeling. I know the sentiment is, well, you mean well when you say I deserve to win and stuff, but to me it's a little bit like, well, please, like, let's stop pulling me into external things. It was never about if I deserve to win and blah, blah, blah. I understand what it means. You know, you think I looked best, and I appreciate it, you know, but I want to be able to focus, have an internal focus. So you see, it's so easy. It's like if I take some kind of comparison, you know, you get into bodybuilding, natural bodybuilding for health, like I did. You know, I want to be my strongest, healthiest self, and I enjoy the aesthetics as a part of it. And suddenly you're thinking about the aesthetics, like, oh, it's going too slow, and I'm black pilled. I don't know how much I can do natural. I wonder. You start thinking about steroids. Like me personally, was never something I wanted to do. But then you even start going there, and it's, wait a second, was this about artificially growing as much muscle as possible, not caring about my health, or was it being my strongest and healthiest self? You know, it's the same thing here. It's like, was this about, did I join a bodybuilding show 1 week, in 1 week, and expect to get a great result in the competition? Or was it just a fucking challenge to see what I could pull off given just a week, you know? Same thing, like when I could, even before going there, I could internally feel like great, like, oh, I've come so far, like my old self should have seen me now. And suddenly it's like, oh, well, these people said I did well. Oh, the people said I had good energy on stage. Doesn't fucking matter. The point is that I felt that way, you know? So, yeah, but even, I'll say this, even when my like personal disappointment had gotten away a bit, it's like, it is a little off-putting to me. It's like, I get it, it's a certain thing, the posing matters, but my idea going into it was like, well, the poses, they are certain positions the judges want to see you in, because in the category, they're looking for certain strong points, right? So they want you to show off the physique in certain positions. It was surprising to learn that it's more than just a position to show yourself. You know, a thing like the vacuum, it's like an actual performance, you know? And it's just a little weird, because if there's a performance, I would prefer that it's just actually some strength part of it, right? It's just a little strange, off-putting, like really, you know, that some guys, I don't want to take anything away from anyone's achievement, you know, but it's like, it is fucking strange if it's supposed to be like a physique contest, and there can be such a obvious difference, right? And still, well, you couldn't pull in your stomach, so we put you at the bottom. It's like, Yeah, but what I feel, because and that's also the reminder, you know, when you feel a bit disappointed initially. Well, this is why the competitive side of things have never spoken to me. I've seen all the time that this is clearly not the same thing I'm about. And you know, when you see some people there, people were nice there and supportive and that. When you see some, especially girls, but guys too, it's so much insecurity and just looking for attention and validation. While you go into bodybuilding, natural bodybuilding, like I said, to be your strongest and healthiest self. And I want to do something like this, like a one-off challenge. For some people, it's nothing with health. It's like artificially making you as much of a beautiful plastic doll as possible, you know. Some girls there, you know, no muscle, diet down to like shreds, they look like a skeleton. These silicone boobs, a head that looks like a doll's head that someone put there. And like, it's just oozes like daddy issues in that sense, right? But a lot of the guys too, like one man's physique guy, so he was walking around like this everywhere backstage. It's a fucking weird sport, right? But so yeah, that's the reminder again that like this is why I'll never feel like this is something I want to continue doing. However, I think now that I understand how it works, I'd like to give it like one shot, like actually having time to learn the poses properly. So I've done that part of things too. But then after that point, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to say, well, I'm done with this, right? It's unfortunate, you know, when I think of it, I think the only time I would have really been into competitive bodybuilding, and then I would have gone on gear too, that's back in the golden era. When I see, you know, Tom Platz, Lee Priest, these guys, I'm just like, well, yeah, it was fucking awesome back then. It was before the stupid spray tan, when they were just on Venice Beach, got all suntanned and oiled up, right? I liked it the way it was back then. I do not like what it has become, and you know, it is what it is. But yeah, I'm really happy, like apart from just, you know, feeling proud of doing a thing like this that would have been as good as impossible for my old self. So just imagine, guys, the guy that always would have been over-prepared for any sort of stage situation, absolutely shaking in his boots, maybe even bailing last minute or self-medicating with alcohol. Here he is, doing a freestyle posing routine that he had less than a week to make and rehearse. Not really doing it all that well, but pretending as if like, yeah, I'm knowing exactly what I'm doing. Pretty fucking huge for me, to be honest.
Yes. Good, Theo. Nick.
I mean, I did really well with my prep in a week. That's the thing. I'm a fucking master at this. Like you know, it's crazy. I'm so adapted to super depletion from fasting and stuff that it wasn't really all that bad. You know, like I think my libido was great throughout the entire time. But I really got in the best shape ever, and of course I had to shave myself also, so even more high definition. I'm still in the top shape. I haven't really regained anything. Yesterday was the only day I really ate a lot after the competition. But yeah, it was fun. It forced me to get into even better shape. I was done with my own personal cut. Had been maintaining for a few weeks. Yeah, but so now you know, guys. Like I hope you could take some lessons with you about like focusing on what truly matters, not get caught up in the external factors. Even more difficult, I think, when you have a following, of course, because if I didn't have to do videos and explain this, it would have been easier to just be like, yeah, well, I'm happy about my accomplishment. But I think this can always happen, that we lose track of what actually matters. Yeah. Well, what more did I want to say there? I was gonna say some last thing also, but anyway, guys. Now you know why 7 out of 8. It's like, yeah, I look. It's not that it could make me feel bad about my physique or anything. It just felt like I must have failed. Like, you know, easily feel like I did wrong. I did bad, right? But of course, like I'm happy. I'm very happy with my physique, the job I did. It's like, but the vacuum pose, that, you know, we can think it's silly, but if that's how it works, it's like, well, it makes sense that if you can do proper vacuum, they have to place you lower. So, but yeah, guys, that's it for this experience. Please like and comment. I do holistic bodybuilding coaching, getting jacked and stacked mentally, physically, spiritually. Working on ourselves, body, mind, and soul, becoming that person that can be this fucking mature and get over their inner perfectionist that, you know, very at a different time could have a really hard time letting go and focusing on the wrong thing in a situation like this. Like, we work on ourselves on every level is the point, inside and out, and it's going to be reflected on the outside in this massive physique. So if you're interested, you can send me a DM on Instagram or email me. It's in the description below. I'll get back to you with my different programs. Pick up my training book, everything training, philosophy, mindset related you need in order to become a self-reliant, jacked and stacked individual. Please subscribe for more content about fitness, fast losing weight, building muscle, self-improvement, stoicism, mental health, philosophy, spirituality, mindset. It is a mindset, guys. Internal focus, not external. Peace.